Okay, let's go ahead and let's get started. Appreciate you joining us on May 1st, Roy City Council members. Just want to recognize that we have Councilmember Tafoya, Councilmember Yeoman, Councilmember Burrell, Councilmember Saxton, and Councilmember Paul joining us today in this meeting. We're going to turn the time over to Councilmember Burrell, and she's going to lead us in a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
We'll start with a moment of silence. Thank you. And then Troop 361 from Roy, our Roy guys, are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
Color guard, attention. Audience, please rise. Hand salute. Color guard, forward march. Please recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Color guard, post the colors. The audience may be seated. Color guard.
Thanks tonight. It's Troop 361 again.
Okay, let's just jump right in. We have some consent items. We'll just go through them rather quickly. They include approval of the April 3rd, 2018 City Council meeting minutes, the April 17th City Council minutes, and then a request for preliminary subdivision approval for the J-Bar Farms Phase 2 subdivision located approximately 4047 West, 6000 South. Council, any comments, questions before we go ahead and address these? Are we okay?
Yep.
Okay. Do I have a motion then to approve these consent items?
Mayor, I make a motion that we go ahead and we approve the consent items all as written.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. This is all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved. Thank you. Now we have the presentation of the fiscal year 2019 preliminary budget. This is the city manager's most important event in his career. I don't think anybody has worked harder on this than him and Matt, and so we're pretty excited to see what he has to say. So if you would, I'll give you some time, city manager, to discuss the budget.
Okay, thank you. Mayor and council, also the residents, we're going to present to you a fiscal 19 budget. This will be my first budget to present. I'm super excited about it, and the good news is we're ahead of schedule. So we're not pressing for anything, we have time. You'll notice I sent you an email tonight at like 5:30, but don't be alarmed because we're not passing the budget tonight. You should have a soft copy and you should have a hard copy, and also for the residents, we do have it posted on our website. So you can go to that, look at it, and I'll give this to the residents too. If you see something on there that you want me to look at, please email me or give me a phone call about it. This is a very open, transparent budget. It's really simple and easy, so feel free to let me know what you think. Mayor, council, I'm going to present to you a snapshot of the budget, but I got to give credit where credit's due, and actually that goes to Matt Andrews, our finance director. He's the one that's spent countless hours and putting the budget together. tweaking it to try to make it simple, readable, easy to understand. So if I could just give a shout out to our finance director. So Matt, thanks for your weekends, your late hours, and getting this budget ready so I can prepare it. Okay, so I present to you the city manager's proposed annual budget for the city of Roy for the 2018-2019 fiscal year, which begins July 1st, 2018 and ends June 30th, 2019. Roy City remains in good financial condition and its fund and department budgets are all in balance. And what does that mean by the departments in balance? It means our expenditures and our revenues equal out, and that's a super good thing, especially for May 1st. So the budget summary, the total budget for this fiscal year is $18,295,043. This budget presented in this document is balanced in that expected revenues and anticipated expenditures align with each other. As always, funds will require monitoring should revenues decline, but overall ongoing operations are fully funded with anticipated revenues and reserves. So council and residents, this budget does align with our strategic plan. We do have 5 areas of our strategic plan. They're community pride, economic development, infrastructure, workforce development, and traffic. In those, we have 3 different areas. I did adjust and I did change some of our strategic plan line items because we did complete some of those this last year. So I thought it was good to kind of make up some new ones. One of the new ones for community pride is always in our beautification efforts. We did put some money in for our neighborhood blight programs that we've been discussing as the beautification committee. Also, I want to look at funding options to enhance municipal park, and I think we kind of fixed some of that, and I think we found some. Let's see, economic development, I kept it the same just because those are 3 continuous working objectives that will still be in place for this year. And let's see, workforce development. We have done some workforce development, so I did put a new one in there about doing kind of a monthly lunch and meet opportunity with the employees on leadership opportunities, community, customer service issues and relations. So I think we're in a good spot. I think our department directors have done a fantastic job on helping me with this budget. This isn't really all done by me. So I'd like to thank all the department directors. We're excusing Ross. Ross has another commitment, our Public Works Director. But them, their team members, for their impressive leadership and hard work in developing a fiscally sound budget. How we got to this budget, if I can just go over that for just a minute. It is a process, and the process started back in January. On January 26th, Matt distributed the budget request forms and instructions to all the department directors. So now the department directors have it. On February 9th was their deadline to submit all of their request budgets to Matt and myself. On March 13th and 14th, for the first time, the department directors and myself had a 2-day retreat. We kept it local to be fiscally responsible to the taxpayers. We didn't stay in any hotels. We drove up to Bountiful, we drove back. We did that 2 nights, and that's where we formulated the budget, and everybody had their opportunity to speak, opportunity to learn about the budget. It was very transparent, it was very open, and I think it was good for the department directors for the first time to fully see the whole budget and not just their own individual budget. On April 10th, we brought this budget to you guys in a work session. That was a very lengthy work session. It was about 3 hours, but it was needed. And basically everything in your budget packet that you're going to read was from the minutes and the notes and the conversations that took place on April 10th. So, being May 1st, by rule, we have to present a tentative budget to mayor and council, and it needs to be posted on our sites. We have done that. We're meeting this obligation today. And we would like for you guys to take 3 to 4 weeks. We have time, go through it, look at it, see if you like it. If you want any changes, we can set up a forum discussion email. And if for some reason there's a huge disconnect somewhere and we need to meet on a night, we totally can do that and meet for an hour to say, hey, what about this, what about that? But I think you'll find that it's what we discussed, what we talked about. I'm totally open to do whatever, but yeah, I think you'll like it. We would like to approve this on June 5th. June 5th is one of our council meetings, and if we don't approve it June 5th, we have to approve it the next 2 weeks by rule. But I'd like to do it June 5th, get it done. It's pretty much wrapped up now. Look at it, see if you like it. Not a lot of changes from what we talked about. A little bit in beautification. If you remember, we talked about the $85,000 that we could do and put it somewhere else. And we did that. We put it in council contingency for now. And my thoughts were, is we could take it and put it towards baby municipal. Sorry. Okay. Okay, we do have RDA budget too. RDA budget.
Yeah, between those two.
I forgot the RDA budget in our meeting that we had on the 10th. So we still need to do and discuss RDA. And we're going to discuss that Tuesday night. So we're going to, because Tuesday night, May 8th, is our council planning commission workshop.
Oh,
They start at 6, so they're going to be a half an hour. We figured from 6 to 6:30 we could knock out the RDA part of the budget. We are going to put that on the website on Friday to meet the public notice record, and we can kind of go over the RDA. But I do have a little RDA snapshot for you that I'd like to just go over. You also have the RDA packet. This is just a quick snapshot. Again, we'll discuss this in an RDA budget meeting on Tuesday. But the RDA is really simple. We have expenditures and we have revenues. So, our revenues, we have certain taxing districts within the RDA that we still get RDA funds for, which is $311,000 that we get every year for those couple taxing districts. We have about $2 million in our fund balance in RDA, and off the interest is about $18,000. So right now, we have annually $329,000 coming in every year for that. Expenditures, $164,000 is coming out annually to the city's general fund for administration cost, and we're paying back the RDA $30,000 a year for a water line replacement that was done in the Albertsons RDA project area. Other than that, that's pretty much the budget. So there's a few items that we want to discuss in Tuesday's meeting that maybe will enhance our RDA areas, maybe some economic development strategies or personnel that we can go over Tuesday night. That's the budget. So, any questions for me?
Council, any comments, question about budgets?
No,
Appreciate your hard work on it.
yeah, we all just have some light reading to do.
Yeah, and the good thing is you got time. That's the nice part about
That
it.
is true. That is actually really
The
true.
thing that I like about it this year, like you talked about, was the first time that you got all your department heads together and worked through it. And when we had our joint budget meeting, it was good to see how some were able to say, hey, I have a little extra here, somebody else needs some, so you're able to reappropriate money around the city to help different groups out. So, you know, collaborative work effort's always good.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Okay, we got some action items. Let's go
Mayor,
ahead and...
Mayor, I hate to interrupt, but what we're going to need to do right now is we're going to need to have a motion to accept this tentative budget. And then we're going to need to set a date and a time for a public hearing on the final budget. And that final budget's got to be, is it June 5th? So if somebody can include
5th.
all that in their motion, that's what we need, and I'll help you get through that.
Motion to approve the 2019 preliminary fiscal budget and set a public hearing.
Yeah, set a public hearing, the date would be
June 5th
June
at 6
5th
o'clock.
at 6 o'clock.
I'll second that.
And we'll do that for both this municipal budget and the
On
county
the RDA
development.
now or at the RDA meeting?
Should do that at the RD.
I'll second that motion.
Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any approved? Any
Is that a roll call?
No,
It's not
no,
fair.
it's not.
any disapproved? Perfect.
I want to apologize to Jason during
Yeah.
his presentation. I don't know if you saw it, but I was drinking water and missed my mouth.
Oh, okay, we thought there was some inside
No,
joke going
no, it
on
was-
that we didn't see.
I'm kind of drenched.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, we got some action items to discuss. First one we're going to discuss is Resolution 1810 appointing Thomas Dunford Jr. Thomas? Please, thanks. Appreciate you joining us. We had a conversation about this last city council meeting. Do I have a motion that we can appoint Mr. Thomas Dunford Jr. to the Ogden Weaver Community Action Partnership Board of Trustees?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Burrell,
Aye.
Councilmember Paul,
Aye.
Councilmember Saxton,
Aye.
Councilmember Tafoya,
Aye.
Councilmember Yeoman.
Aye.
Motion
Excellent.
carries.
Thank you, Thomas. And I've asked, if you don't mind, and Mr. Dunford and I talked this over, periodically, maybe once every couple of months, I'd like you, if you could, come join us, kind of give us an update on what's happening down there at this group, and kind of help us understand some of the great things they're doing for us. So if you'll kind of take that as an action, and we'll put you on the agenda and come speak to us. That work okay, Tom?
That'll work.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your contribution to this great service. Thank you. Okay. We have consideration for resolution number 18-11, creating a business advisory committee. We had a pretty good conversation last time. Any comments or questions you'd like to have on this particular before we take a vote?
No, I think it's a good idea. Hopefully we can put it in place and get a lot of participation.
I do have a clarification, because I've had some residents of the city show an interest in it. Is it specifically just for business owners?
Yes, the purpose of the business advisory would be is to capture then, from a business owner perspective, those individuals who reside, who have businesses in our city, to kind of have an understanding of some of their perspectives in terms of how our ordinances and how our processes are working, and maybe provide us some real insight of how we might be able to make improvements. So to your question, we're looking for business owners within Roy City, yes.
But they do not have to be residents of Roy City.
They do not, no. The business owner is really the only requirement, is we would like them just to be business owners and get their input on that.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 1811?
Mayor, I'd like to make that motion that we approve number resolution 18-11, creating a business advisory committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Tafoya,
Aye.
Councilmember Yeoman,
Aye.
Councilmember Saxton,
Aye.
Councilmember Paul,
Aye.
and Councilmember Burrell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We also have a consideration of reapproving ordinance number 18-7, adjusting the prospective common boundary between Roy City and Hooper City.
Mayor, if we could amend this on the agenda, just to be consideration of ordinance number 18-11, readopting ordinance number
Say it one more time.
everything.
Oh,
Well,
so you want
right
me
after
to do-
consideration, really what we're doing is approving ordinance number 1811 that reapproves the existing ordinance. So it would be
Oh.
consideration of ordinance number 1811, readopting ordinance number 1807.
Okay,
Okay.
so I amend my motion that we go ahead and we approve, okay, Ordinance number 1811, creating a business advisory plan that is readopting
Separate.
two separate ones?
No, we've already.
Separate.
We had a resolution and
And
now we have
we
an
need to
ordinance.
say ordinance 1811 in this item.
So there's an ordinance number 1811 and a resolution 1811?
No.
No,
I think the problem is the 1811 got used on two different things.
Yeah, go ahead, Andy, let's
It could
explain
be
this so we
unless
make
that
sure we get
unless
this
that was a
right.
resolution.
On your
Let's
handout,
make
it's both
sure.
of them.
On the
11 and
ordinance,
7.
yeah, the ordinance is
Okay.
1811.
We used 11 on the one we just passed for the advisory board.
That's a resolution.
That's a
not
That was a
Yeah, that's what I said.
Resolution.
Okay.
So then adopting also ordinance
Number 1811.
number 1811.
Yes,
Okay,
okay. So if you just throw in ordinance number 1811 right after
instead of
consideration.
18.7, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so here we have it.
So can
Consideration.
I say whatever like you just said?
You can. And
But I think
if you need an explanation, we can
We
give
can do
that.
that.
Yeah.
Just explain a little bit to the council exactly how we got here.
Why we're doing this.
Yes.
yeah. When we did the boundary adjustment resolution that you approved a little over a month ago, the document you have is the very same one, but we're approving it right now, and I'll explain why. We got our information back from Weber County Friday afternoon. We had our mayors from both cities sign that Monday morning. We sent that document to the lieutenant governor's office, as we're required to do. The lieutenant governor got back to us yesterday afternoon, or some of his employees, and said, hey, we're outside of the 30-day time limit, Roy City, but not the other city. They're reading it, our interpretation is as an annexation, myself and Reed Richards, and looking at this, no, it's after the last city approves it. So we would be within that time period. They're saying we're not. Rather than fighting with them and appealing it, we couldn't get to talk to any of their attorneys there. We just put it back on for a motion to reapprove. So a motion to reapprove makes the whole process work faster. We'll submit this to them tomorrow. They have 10 days to get back to us. As soon as that 10 days is up, actually, as soon as they send it back to us, we can file it with the county, and then we go from there. And everything's taken care of.
You have a question?
I'm sorry, but I can't hear him.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Oh, I
sitting here
apologize.
with notes on what he's talking about.
Okay.
Just recap real quickly, one more time.
Yeah, so this motion to reapprove, the Lieutenant Governor's office said that we needed to do this because of the 30-day time period requirement. We have a difference of opinion on whether that's required. We think it's when both cities, it's 30 days after the last city to do that because it's a boundary line adjustment, not an annexation. But in order to make them happy, we just re-adopt the ordinance that we already had, then that fits all the time requirements. So they said that would be sufficient.
So you can go ahead without the certification tonight,
We can, yes, absolutely.
even though you got your paperwork in yesterday?
We're reapproving what we already have approved.
I was
No, it's-
told by type.
Yeah. And if you'd like, I'd be more than happy to discuss it outside. I think I can explain everything.
Well, I won't
Yeah.
know until after it's over whether I can present what I have talked about with the Lieutenant Governor. You're
Okay.
10 days late with getting your material.
Well, no, I totally disagree with you, but I won't argue with you here in a council meeting, but if you'd like to discuss.
March 20th, signed by the mayor,
Okay.
and you have not followed.
Okay, so,
Well, this isn't a public hearing, and
understand.
I know this has been handled properly, so.
Well, we just wanted to make sure
I'm not good.
that the record showed and they heard exactly what got us to this
Yeah.
point again.
And we're just readopting what we've already approved.
Okay.
And we had the right to approve it when we did.
Okay, so here's the motion. The motion then would be, do I have a motion to approve or reapprove?
Reapprove.
Ordinance 1811, adjusting the prospective common boundary between Roy City and Hooper City.
Mayor, I motion that we approve ordinance number 1811, an ordinance of Roy City, Utah, re-adopting ordinance number 18-7, adjusting the respective common boundaries between Roy City and Hooper City, Utah.
Second.
Okay, this is a roll call vote. Morgan?
Councilmember Paul.
Aye.
Councilmember Saxton.
Aye.
Councilmember Tafoya.
Aye.
Councilmember Burrell.
Aye.
And Councilmember Yeoman.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Okay. Now, we need to go into some public comments. So this is a time, if you have something you'd like to talk about, anything you want to bring up, please come to the mic. Give us your name and, if you would, your address, and then share with us your ideas, thoughts, feelings. Welcome.
Hi, thanks. My name is McCall Jensen, and I live at 3810 West, 5850 South.
Okay.
I was just coming here to see if there's anything we could do about my kids and the neighborhood kids' safety. We live on a bend where the 5850 South becomes 3850 South. And for some reason, I've only been here since December, but now that it's getting warmer and all the kids are outside, it's really becoming apparent that this bend is very dangerous. For some reason, cars, like low riding racing cars, like to fly by, and they love this bend. They love it, and we've had a lot of aggressive truck drivers come at this bend. My son is autistic. I can't guarantee that he'll have a good day or bad day. And when something sets him off, there's no reasoning, there's no safety, there's no, this is dangerous, it's just something sets him off. And the speed that the cars are driving by, and it's not everyone, not every car is speeding, we're just noticing there are quite a few cars that are choosing this bend kind of like a fun ride. Not a fan. There's 14 kids under the age of 9 that live on this bend. There's no sidewalks, so they have to share the road with the cars. And since I've been here, there's been multiple instances where I just cringe like, oh, he almost got hit. Oh no, and half of it I know is a parent's problem. They need to watch their kids, and yeah, some of that's probably lacking on some of these neighborhood kids, but I'm out there and I'm with them, and I can still not guarantee that my kids aren't going to get hit. I just wanted to bring it up and see if there was anything that could be done to protect our kids on this bend.
McCall, do you have any signs out there? Have we put any signs out there like slow children to play? Do you have anything in that?
We don't have anything like that yet. I did talk to the police enforcement over this weekend because I asked the truck to slow down and he got really aggressive and smoked one of the kids out. He turned on his chip and smoked out the little kids right there, and I was like, wait till you're a parent, buddy. But there's no slow signs. They did ask me to come and request that trailer, which I was hoping to do now. The trailer that could like monitor the speeds. I don't feel like that's going to help with these young bucks very much. These are low riding little racer cars that they know what the speed limit is. You know, so I didn't know what the next step would be.
I think that's kind of a basic start where we could bring out your speed limit trailer. It won't be permanent because it's temporary.
Oh yeah, it's not a permanent
But we
thing.
could do, Jason could work with Ross and the street department to go ahead and see where we can put those signs in good placements. And
Yeah, and the main problem is that curve. It's a very dangerous curve. I don't know why, but that's where the problem is.
You live right around the corner from myself and the mayor. I've had that sign out on 5700 because trucks race up and down that, and we've had the same concern on 6000, but that's kind of a cut road between the two.
So I've noticed that too. People are flying on 6000 and the one you spoke of, but they cut right through my little neighborhood, and that's where all the young kids don't have sidewalks. There's no way for them to get from neighborhood to neighbor without that, and so that's getting even more dangerous.
Let's see if we can focus on your specific need. The city does on occasion, when a parent indicates that there is a deaf child or a blind child, and they have petitioned the council and the city has made arrangements in the past then to post very visible signs indicating to any driver through there that there's a certain situation at that particular area that may not necessarily be other areas. I guess my comment to you would be is that, are you asking the council then to consider, surely the temporary speed device that can monitor the speed of the vehicles is helpful, but it may not necessarily be something you're requesting. But I sense that maybe you are requesting that maybe we consider, or the council consider, putting a couple of signs to bring the awareness to your autistic child, okay, at this particular location. Is that?
Very, very much so.
Okay.
My son was diagnosed nonverbal autistic 2 years ago, and we're still learning this. All of us are still learning this. I'm not a perfect parent, but there's no way to control when a kid gets set off. We don't know what's going to set him off. and we don't know where he will be when he gets set off. He could be across the street at a neighbor's house and something will set him off. Well, I can't be there fast enough if a car's flying by to stop something tragic from happening. But yes, my son is nonverbal autistic. He's a sweet kid, but again, I can't guarantee what's going to set him off. And when he's set off, there's no understanding of danger. There's no understanding of his environment. It is just flight or flight response. He's gone. And I'm just trying to protect him from having something regrettable happen.
Sure.
And the other kids. If a sign goes up that protects the other kids on my neighborhood, I'm even more happy, because we've got a lot of cute little kids right here that if my son's need helps them, I'm great with that.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I can.
Please.
What was the address?
It's 3810 West, 5850 South. So my house is one house. The corner house is actually called the corner house because it is literally on the corner, and my house is right next to where the corner begins.
Okay, so if I can, it sounds like to me, and I think the mayor and I had this conversation this last week, is I'm just not sure if putting some type of a little special sign is going to do anything, especially where you got 19 other kids in that area.
There's quite a few
I think
of
this
them.
is kind of a global problem more than just this one isolated incident. I'm wondering if I can get with Ross, our public works director, and maybe our police chief, and come up with some other ways to try to help mitigate this situation. If that's okay, if maybe you could meet with the two of us and
Love
maybe
to.
maybe we could go down there. What's a good contact number?
Okay, so it's 801-698-8884, and I would really appreciate that.
Yeah, and your first name was?
McCall.
McCall. Okay, McCall, I'll set it up and we'll kind of get some of the big players involved and see what we can do to try to help
That would be
fix
great.
that. Because it's, one kid, but the 19, it sounds like it's a little under 9 years old. It's a busy
Very.
section. And
If you ever drive by my house in the evening, I'm sure you guys have, you see that there's a ton of kids playing with each other. It's a community thing going on. It's beautiful, but it's also dangerous.
Yeah, and we want, as a city, we want to help with that where we can. And I know the police chief, he's kind of ornery looking guy. And if we maybe
He's
stuck
trying,
him
yeah,
out
he's
there.
pulling up that address in that area,
Yeah.
I can tell.
Yeah, they may see him and it's really slow down and stop. And that may take care of it. So, McCall, we'll get with you, and mayor, council, we'll try to come up with a solution.
Okay, great.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
McCall.
Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else who'd like to make public comment?
Well, there's no need for me to go down my questions because this has been changed for my eyes. But I still have one last question on this because I've been in contact with the Lieutenant Governor's office, and Taish is the person that deals with this. And I've been talking back and forth with her since the 16th of April when the April 10th meeting went ahead without that certification because it had only been 21 days since the March 20th meeting. And she called me yesterday at 3:30 and said she just got the paperwork from that March 20th meeting signed by you, Mayor. And she says you have 30 days, just like he said, and you are 10 days past due, therefore you have to resubmit before they consider the certification. And I just have one question. What makes Roy City exempt from following protocol?
That's a good question. I think at this point is that we're not exempt. And I think whatever the requirement is, we have to follow that requirement, regardless of what that is. And so if there was a need, and I sensed from the conversation I had prior to this, that there was in fact maybe a disagreement or a misunderstanding or not quite understanding exactly the difference between what the law states and what the governor's office had told the city. It meant that some of the information that we've already submitted was in fact not valid. It was not timely for Roy City. Hooper was fine. It still had about a week or so. And so what that perpetuated, unfortunately, is the Royce City had to come back and readdress this particular issue again, in part because it didn't meet that requirement. And rather than appeal it, which is my understanding is what the governor's office wanted, if you don't like it, just appeal it. The recommended solution would be is to simply just bring it back to the council and rework it again, so it kind of sets the clock back. If there is any issue that we think that in fact there might be some changes or violation like that, then we owe it to the city to go back and just simply reflush that and make sure we're still okay before this thing gets finalized. So at this point, I'm not sure I know anything that suggests that, only that we had to fix this because in essence, the Lieutenant Governor's office told us you're out of that 30-day window. And as a result, we had to come back and reapproach that.
Mayor, what was happening is they have a different interpretation of the statute that myself and the city attorney for
Correct.
Hooper have. You're looking at a joint boundary action where the documents are submitted jointly. You have 30 days from when that last city of the two files it. You're on separate programs where we're doing an annexation and you have 30 days. So it's 30 days from when Hooper approved it. So we got our information back from the county Friday. We got our signatures Monday, sent it in. Their interpretation, which I disagree with, and so does Mr. Richards disagree with, but we couldn't talk to legal staff down there for them, and their suggestion was, well, just appeal it. But they talked about, what if we do this other alternative?
Yeah.
This saves time. Hooper doesn't have to go back and re-adopt theirs. But that's the interpretation that we've given to that ordinance, and we believe that's a correct legal interpretation.
Okay, so it sounds like that they directed that way to go ahead and approve it. So they're the ones who recommended. This is a way for...
Well, it's a way that we talked to them about doing it that
Oh,
would,
okay.
that would satisfy them.
Okay.
But if we were to go a few more days, then Hooper's out of that time frame, and Hooper has to
Then
come
they
back
have to do
to
the same
So
thing.
this was the most expedient way to handle this issue, rather than, you know, we asked to talk to legal counsel there, we were told we couldn't. So that we could appeal it. Rather than doing that, this is a simple way to resolve the problem, is we just re-adopt the ordinance.
Yes, straight again to the mayor's point. To answer your question, we're not exempt, but we did do and correct and solve the issue tonight by approving ordinance 1811.
The last date they ever received anything from you, from Royce City, goes back to March 2017 until yesterday. There is a gap there of nothing from you from March of 2017 until yesterday.
Until yesterday?
That's
We weren't
what
required to
Taisha
send
said.
anything in March.
And she is the
2017.
person
So-
that deals with this. Taisha.
And I've talked to her,
And you talked to her?
yes.
Okay.
And I've talked to her supervisor also.
Okay. I can't speak to exactly why that was the case, to be honest with you.
I wish you'd been lenient with me with all the rules and regulations I've had to accept in the change of my life over this annexation. I wasn't taken into exception and worked with. And also, you are a relative. Isn't this a conflict of interest that you're up there voting?
No, because there's no any gain or anything that I'm gaining from it.
Okay. Sure happy to be in your city.
Any other comments? Okay, just give us your name and your address.
My name is Zachary Hunter. My address is 2905 West, 4275 South. Along with our speeding problem, we also have a lot of kids in our neighborhood, and there's some cars that speed, and I would like to make a suggestion right by my house where there's a lot of speeding cars coming off Midland. We have a dip, and it has like signs for dip. So if there's a car coming in, they have to slow down or the car's gonna be injured by that. So if we have kids around that neighborhood, the car's gonna be hurt bad, and they don't want their car to be damaged. So they would probably slow down when they see that dip sign or like a speed bump to slow the cars down. I mean, I know there's money expenses on that, but that would be a good thing to do to slow down cars.
Okay. And I assume, city manager and chief, I assume that as you sit down with Call and talk about some options, maybe that may be an option that they consider. Either a speed bump or at least maybe a dip at that location to drive the traffic down a bit. That might be a solution.
Yep.
Okay.
So what was your first name?
Zach.
Zach. How old are you?
I am 13. My birthday is actually on Saturday. But
So you're gonna do well in government one day. Because I'm not sure
Yeah.
I've ever seen a kid come
Not
up and
many
do public
kids.
comment and come up with some brilliant stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
oh, you saying it's your idea?
Um,
Oh, you're up next.
Okay.
Good job. You can hardly wait.
I was suggesting to come up, and I was like, wait.
No, you done good. We'll look at it. Thank you.
Thanks for your...
Did you get that address, Carl? Did you get that one?
Okay.
Give us your name and your address.
So my name's Jacob Hunter. I live at 2621 West, 4050 South, Roy, Utah. Where you beat me, I was gonna ask, with all the school shootings going on, how are we trying to prevent that in our society?
Well, that's a really, that's a good question.
I can respond to that.
Yeah, I'd like your
I
comment on that.
I know that the schools are working really hard on that, Jacob. I know that they are working in collaboration with our police departments, and that's happening on a consistent basis because it has to be a collaborative effort. So they're a task force working on that all the time. Would you agree with that, Chief?
I can also answer that is, and I don't want to butcher the numbers, Chief, but we have resource officers, police officers at every single school, the junior highs and high schools.
Yeah, we have a resource officer.
Yeah, who is it?
Bull?
Yeah, he's a great guy, huh, Tim?
Yeah.
So we, as the police department and the school district combined together, have actually eliminated many threats that a lot of people don't know about. They do that on their own in collaboration with the school district. So we feel pretty good about it. Hopefully it doesn't happen in our city, but they work every single day to eliminate the threat, and they've actually caught things in the progress or in the process and have eliminated it. So
My resource officer's a nice guy, but I don't see like some kids who are having a rough time would feel like they could go to a police officer in that situation. I don't think that a kid would go there. I mean, if I was having something, I wouldn't go to the police officer first. And I know that the problem is they're worried about students, but I think that's where the problem is with most of them is they think that the resource officer is going to arrest them because of that, because
Because he's a policeman.
Yeah, they're just worried with that, and I don't think that's what they should.
Jacob, do you have a way to report a concern? Do you know a way to report a concern?
Well, I haven't had one personally.
But
Right.
would you know what to do if you did?
Well, yeah,
What would you do?
I would go to the resource officer, of course.
You can do that.
Yeah, I
There's
can-
also an app called
Called-
Safe Utah app,
My phone doesn't have storage, but
but you can do it on a computer, any computer you have access to. So there's ways that they're working all the time to get that information from students just like yourself.
I think you could report it to a school administrator or a teacher,
Exactly.
any adult that's in the school. I mean, I think it's important to see something, say something. You hear about stuff, you see stuff going on, it's the public's responsibility to speak up and say something. Many of these instances, if somebody would have just said something or somebody would have acted upon it, a different outcome. So I think it's important to speak up when you see something. If you hear your friends talking about stuff that you think's not right, say something. It's better to be safe than to protect your friend.
I was going to say, Jacob, you sound like that you've got some great ideas and you're kind of, forward thinking. And you made the comment, maybe you wouldn't know if any of your friends would, if they were struggling with this, go to the resource officer. If you actually think of an idea or something that you think might work, I think the chief or anybody would take any ideas or that you have, especially coming from the youth, to be able to help this problem.
well, at my school we combined our cheerleading and to make like a hope squad thingy.
They're good.
Yeah, we've done that, and I feel like that's a good idea.
Good.
But I don't feel like if I was in trouble, I would walk up to a complete stranger and say, "Hey, I'm having this problem." No, I'm like my English teacher's teaching us about introverts and extroverts, and I feel like I'm more introverted.
Then I think you have to come up with the idea of where would you go, what would make you feel safe, and then that's the idea that we need for others that are in your same situation to be able to improve the process.
Because I feel like they're just thinking of like student officers would go, "Hey, this is happening."
Right.
But if it's your friend, you're worried about them. Yeah, you'd want to help them, but that's just different. Like, it's your friend. Whereas if a student officer or someone like that sees it, yeah, they'll help. But the thing is, if you're not their friend, it might sound like they're accusing you of something. And that, I think, is what's aggravated this.
Right, right.
And I will tell you this, the police officers that are at your school are awesome, and they're super nice, and they want to make sure that your school is safe and that you're safe. So if your kids don't feel like they can, tell them that they can do it, and he's a great guy. And we have great resource officers at the other schools too that are there to protect you.
Well, I'm not saying the resource officers are bad. They're good and all that. But I just don't see that a kid would think, "Oh, there's a police officer. Let me go to him to talk to him about this problem." Because police officers, like, no offense, but I've seen so many times in movies or something where they go straight to like the law process. They go, "Write your name and all of this, write your information, then we'll help you." And I don't think that's helping that. And
Want it
I
more
don't-
anonymous,
Yeah.
kind of an,
Well, I think school counselors or your school administrators are a good tool, especially school counselors. They're trained how to help situations like
My
that.
only problem is if I go to a teacher, I'm worried that might change their effectiveness. Like, when they see me, they might go, "Oh, this is the kid that's having that problem. We should just fan away from them." I've just seen like some teachers would do that. Not all of them. My teachers are great that I've got. But I'm
Then
just
you do
saying.
the school app like she was saying.
I think you're going to have to develop which ones that you trust. You're going to have to develop a relationship with them and decide who do you go to.
I see myself, if I were doing like a suicide thingy, or say I was planning on shooting somebody, I don't think I'd go straight to my teacher and talk about it. I mean, I go to a therapist weekly. I've had problems.
Okay. Well,
But I don't see
maybe
it.
you're going to have to count on the adults in your life to make that request.
Oh, I count on the adults. I mean, my resource officer's awesome. We got great counselors. Just as a kid, I don't see me going to an adult first. I see me going to a kid first, and then that's where the Hope Squad's good.
yeah.
But the friends, you might not have a friend in there, and maybe it's your best friend that you trust.
Jacob, for such a young age, you're so insightful. You brought some really interesting things to the discussion.
My dad's a therapist, so he's top. Oh,
good.
Tip top and some stuff.
We do appreciate your comments.
Yeah.
Thank you for your
Very
comments.
insightful. Thank you.
Mayor, if there's no more, I got to comment back to Ms. McCall's Jensen's situation. In the past, we've tried to use a speed bump. Jared knows this. I think it was great and effective. Prior administration, prior council just fell to the pressure of people saying it's ruining my car. I would hope and suggest if the speed bump is a solution, stick with it. A life of a child is a heck of a lot more important than a car. That's my opinion on that, if that's the decision that it comes to.
Well, if you drive over a speed bump appropriately, it's not going to affect your car.
Other
There's a whole reason
communities-
for speed bumps, it's to slow people down, but they like to jump off them.
And they learn after the first time. That's what, but I
I
say,
think that speed bump we did was temporary one, which wasn't very, I don't think, effective.
well, it did serve the purpose at the point, but
Yeah.
we had a low one, you
Yeah.
can make them bigger, you can make them permanent speed bumps. I'm just saying, be open to that possibility, that's all.
And there's some wise counsel of that comment. The last time this discussion came up on a speed bump, it lasted a very short period of time, and it was the council elected then at the time to remove it. And so, and in large part because there was a lot of complaints about it. And I think really whatever comes out of this, Chief, Jason, however you think it's the best interest of the city to address that, let's do the right thing. And then I think Dave's point is that council, let's stand behind the decision. And we may get some pushback because some people don't like speed bumps. But if it's all about the safety of the child, as Dave says, then let's don't lose our perspective, okay?
I think Chief can look at some options, yeah.
Okay, we'll leave it in your capable hands. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else? Please. Just give us your name and your address.
My name is Zach Pfister, and I live 2639 West, 4100 South. I just want to talk about Emerson Park. Some of the fields have like little holes in them, and like playing soccer there, like sometimes you can like step in them or roll your ankle or something. And I've seen like, because I ref a lot of games, and I've seen a lot of kids like hurt their ankles by doing that type of stuff. And I mean, it's just like a little thing of grass you can put in to like save that. And then on like the lower fields, there's like just like little patches of mud. But when it rains and they still play, like when it's raining, it'll get like really muddy, and the kids will stop to play in that. I think just like little patches of grass could fix that up very quickly.
Okay, good comment. Travis?
Looks like our,
comments?
our
I
parks,
can see him
yeah,
writing that.
our parks director.
We'll make sure we get out and check all of them before this Saturday's games and make sure if there's any low spots, we'll fill them up with materials. I can't promise it'll be sod right now, but we'll fill them up with materials that they're no longer a liability issue.
Okay, well stated. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Travis. Anything else? Anybody? Okay, we'll close our public comment session. Let's go ahead. We got a couple of the discussion things we want to talk about. City manager's report. Jason?
Okay, on that note, Trav, we did have a discussion and had someone else talk about the same thing in Emma Russell, so if you could get after it, that'd be great.
Tomorrow.
Okay. 6,000 South in the Trailhead. Have you guys stopped by? We got the bathroom foundation poured. It's looking super good. We're really excited about that. The street light at 5,500 South and 4,300 West. The paving is complete. The survey's complete. Now it's in the state's hand to get that light up. Sidewalk on 1900 West between 3775 South and 4000 South is coming along nicely. And don't forget, May 11th is the police banquet, 6 p.m. at the Timberline. I think, have you guys all RSVP'd for that? Okay. And then just reminder, May 8th is the work session we have with Planning Commission. We're going to try to do some RDA budget at the same time, and maybe a little leadership minute from lessons learned at this conference, which was a great conference.
Where are we going to have that?
We're going to have it in the new room downstairs. Yes.
Okay.
Is there phone
Perfect.
capabilities in that room? Because I plan on calling into that meeting.
We'll make sure that it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we want to hear from you, Joe.
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, mayor and council reports. Council, anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. I have a proposal to bring to the table. I've talked about it with a lot of the residents, talked to it a little bit with some of the other council members about taking car washes out of our ordinance. That would effectively make every car wash a grandfathered non-conforming, but it would not allow for any future car washes in Roy.
I think it's something, I mean, it can be a discussion item, we can,
Yeah, I think you're on the right path, Joe. I wouldn't call it grandfathered in, it's just a limit of how many we can.
yeah, I
put in.
think we need to put, yeah.
You know, just like we did with.
So do you limit it to what we currently have?
Whatever a good number, we have to do it. Andy, correct me, like we did on, is it a study that says, okay, so many per thousand,
Yeah.
so many for whatever?
Yeah, that's one
Proper
way
term.
we could do it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because when I went to that land use conference down there, what they talked about is just take it out of your ordinance, and then everybody that currently has one, as long as they continue to operate,
Then that's where their grandfather.
then they're grandfathered in, but it wouldn't allow any new ones.
So the only thing,
But the
I'm not
only-
saying it's concerned, but say they go out of business, does
Yeah,
that
that's
mean?
my concern.
Instead of 8 and 3 go out of business, all we have left is, I don't know how many, I'm just throwing numbers out.
You could limit it at 8, and then if somebody goes out of business, then that opens the
So
door.
we could
Somebody-
evaluate
Yeah,
how many
that's
do
what I
we
think
do
if I got a
have and
number.
go that way, or were you just saying, if they're gone, and we go down to whatever's left? Either way, I'm just asking.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
That's a
But
good
it's open for discussion.
Yeah,
Okay, anybody want to have a conversation about car washes?
I want to know a little bit more about what is the reasonable number per resident.
I don't
I'm
know
sure
if there's,
something out there.
there might be a study or something about it. I know, that's, my worry is just taking them totally out too. I think putting kind of a
My preference
number.
would just be remove it out of the ordinance. If you're not wanting the car washes to have additional ones, remove it out. Limiting it to, 1 per 6,000 people residents isn't eliminating it, because all of a sudden we hit the magical number of 43,000 people, we can have another one.
Okay,
So as soon
but
as you start putting it
See, what he
that way,
talks about is exactly what they talked about at the Lula
just remove it out of the
conference that I
ordinance.
went to.
That way, no new ones can come. The existing ones exist. If they go out of business or change the type of business it is, then it goes.
So how's the difference between the smoke shops and pawn shops?
Well, that one's more of a public safety issue, where you could still do it, but what's the public safety of a car wash?
What's the difference between, I'm just asking a question,
Yeah.
between public
But
safety
it's
and
much
water
easier just
conservation?
to remove it out.
Kind of, we use it under water conservation, is that not the same thing?
You could,
Could be.
but then put it in lawn, we'd have to look at, I'd rather just remove it out than
So
try
let's
to
say
do a
that,
number.
like Dave says, we've got a mail out of business, or a developer comes in, tears them down, so then we don't have any, we would like a car wash, we'd have to then put it back into the ordinance?
And that's exactly what they talked about at the conference, is you just ebb and flow your ordinance based on what the needs of the cities are. So if 5 of them closed and we felt like we needed more car washes, then you just make a motion to put car washes back in the ordinance. And it's a city council vote, it's a legislative function of the council.
Okay, let me just offer a couple of thoughts. The first thing is, obviously, we're heading down what appears to be a discussion between the property rights of the individuals wanting to have a business to do car washing, which could be profitable. Or second is the fact is we have too many of them, and therefore we may, as it was suggested earlier, maybe there's a water conservation discussion that needs to take place. Whatever the reasoning behind the idea, I think it offers merit, but I think at this point, I would recommend that the city provide us some legal insight of what the options are, and then let the council weigh those options to decide how best to approach it. I agree, this is not a public safety issue, so we really can't leverage it the same we do with tattoo shops or tobacco shops or those. But there is an argument that could be said about water conservation, and it also could be an argument about a variety of other things. But I want to make sure that if we're going to do this, Jason, that we understand exactly what options and how best to approach it, so that we have some choices to make the right choice. And then I'd really like to make sure we have a public input on this. I mean, I think the citizens ought to at least say, maybe they enjoy having a lot of car washes, and maybe not, but at least they need to have a voice in this conversation before the city takes action. Could you then prepare us, have more detail in
We
the
could prepare
discussion?
something, and then we'd follow the regular, go through planning commission for recommendations, and we'd, go the same way we
through the
would with
planning
any
process,
other,
let
and
public
we'd have our
input
public
take
hearings
place.
and all that.
And I think a lot of people, Joe's getting a lot of discussion from citizens, but the reality is, we got 2 new car washes going in that are prime commercial areas, and people think, why did you guys choose to do that? The reality, you need to understand, we didn't choose to do that. They're permitted uses in those zones, and the business owners believe they can make it go out with that. And that's the truth of it. So the mayor's correct when it comes down to, it is a property owner issue also, not just this other issue.
Are we okay with that?
Yeah, we can look
Okay.
into that.
And
yes,
then,
definitely.
and then protocol would be is run it through the planning commission. If there's going to be a change to the ordinance, present that change to the council. And we run it that course. I don't think there's really anything wrong with the proposal. There's probably some merit, but let's just make sure we understand the process effectively before we jump on this. Because if we use this argument, this one, then maybe we have another argument.
That's what I'm gonna say, it's gonna
With
come
something
right
else.
around, just because we're gonna get 2 of something else, we're gonna be having the same thing. But I see Joe's point as far as your ordinance kind of like changes all the time, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Worth the discussion.
Okay, help us to guide us through this, would you?
We'll do that, Mayor.
Thank you. Anything else from the council?
Mayor, I just got a question for you. Do we know that UDOT was putting these crosswalk lights up at all, or did they just do it? I'm glad that they did it.
Yeah,
It's
they're
there, but-
bigger, they're bright, yeah, they're
but,
nice.
Did we get any notice it was happening? Main
The
Road?
school.
Yeah, the school.
Yeah, I saw it today, so.
Yeah, Jeff, they're they're a lot bigger.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
gonna be
they're
great,
nice.
it'll be work for that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
across the road,
Yeah.
but I just, it would be.
Right here in front of the fire
Yeah.
station for the school.
It'd be nice to have more communication to let us know that it actually is happening with UDOT.
Right, agreed.
Good point. Other ideas? Brian?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad that triggered. Over on 2200 West, 50, it's probably 5700 South, they've installed 2 new UTA bus stops. And I got like a ton of calls. Like, how come this didn't come through the city? How come the people didn't have a say? All of a sudden they wake up and they're out there building these bus stops in this residential neighborhood. And now you're gonna bring big old buses down that residential road and have them turn on another residential road. I'm talking city buses, not school buses. And it's right by a school. And I'm just wondering, can we have them communicate with us, or at least let us know when these are going in, so I can take put the mute on my phone or something, because these aren't popular.
Steve, were they already established from UTA? Do they own that property? If so, do they not have it? They can go ahead and just remodel, do what they want. How's that?
Well, I'm not aware of any UTA routes being changed, so it would probably still be the continuous one, so it's probably 2200 West and 5600 South, where there's a UTA bus that's already running down there, but they wouldn't go into the public roads. But again, as I mentioned, it's a public road. UTA has rights to use a public road, and then install a bus stop. They usually get with Ross, with Public Works, to make sure that putting concrete there or putting a bus stop is fine, but a sign, they'll dictate where the stops really go. But again, I'm not aware of any routes changing to go down a private road.
I don't think it's a route issue as much as I think the issue is that UTA has made some improvements. They may have been putting closed bus stops
Yeah.
at locations.
As in shelters?
As a shelter.
I don't think there was no shelters proposed. Along 1900 West and 56, yes, but nothing else, nowhere else.
Well, then, when you get a minute, will you drive by?
5700 South and 2200 West.
Yeah.
Is it a sheltered bus stop?
Yes.
Down by municipal school, is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And
that's,
I think that was the real issue. And by the way, Ross was aware of this, because him and I talked about a different event that's occurring on a bus stop on 5600. And he did say that, he did mention that they contacted, in large part because of a Blue Stake issue. If any time there's digging or any development taking place, Ross then is notified of those, because he could be some utility or something there that his department would have to address. But he was aware of it, but was not necessarily had a decision in it. Maybe the question, Jason, will be is, anytime there is an awareness that there may be something coming, maybe you can forward that to the council, so the council will be aware that UTA or anybody else is making some modification.
Yeah, and I'll get with Russ on it and we'll kick it out. I wasn't aware of a sheltered bus stop going on.
So shelter bus stops do have to come in to be approved. They have to be approved, right?
It's
Or
not
no?
a land use issue.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's
I thought you kind of said that.
a public right-of-way issue.
Not aware, okay.
so they can just,
So they can put one in front of my house if they want to?
that's what they did to these people.
Wow.
Okay, we probably need some insight on, can you help us on this, Jason?
Well, I'll reach out to UTA
Ross.
and reach out to Public Works, and then
Please.
maybe if they issue us a statement, I can pass it on.
And I don't have any problem making a phone call as well, if we can find the right contact, but I think the point is that I find this highly unusual that they're making those kind of physical adjustments to the landscape and the council is not aware of them. And it may very well be they're not required by policy to make us aware, and they'll just do it. But I think in our relationship with UTA, we could ask them that says, if you're going to do this, at least explain to us maybe reasoning, and then give us a heads up so we can notify the public.
Yeah, fair enough.
You okay with that, Jason?
Oh, yeah.
And let you and I maybe reach out and see if we can get some help with UTA.
Yeah.
Does it still say UTA, Brian, or does it say the new name, whatever it's gonna be?
It still says UTA.
$50 million.
Yeah.
We haven't decided that.
When do we
$50
get
million.
the $50 million fix on that thing?
Anything else, council? I just have one thing before we close and then go into an RDA meeting. Jason, I sent a note just asking the question, and I appreciate the information relative to helping with the secondary water concern. It surely is be clear that secondary water, Roy Water District is going to hire individuals to go around and check to see if anybody's basically watering during that 10 to 6 p.m. Time window when they're asking people not to. Also looking for things. And their conversation with me is that their inspector, for a better word, will not be able to make a distinction between secondary and culinary water. There are people within our community who still water with culinary and don't have access to secondary, so it's an issue. And they were just hoping to see if there was a policy within the books of Roy City that has the same type of restrictions between 10 in the morning and 6 in the afternoon of not watering. Answer to that question is there is not. And that's okay. But the question I'd just like to ask the council for conversation would be, should there be? Should we look at our culinary water requirements and establishing then, or working with the Weber Basin District to see if in fact we should put the same kind of restrictions in terms of use of culinary water during those high heat days, parts of the day, to help us conserve the water? And that's just a general comment. What's your thoughts in terms of maybe looking at the same type of restriction on our culinary side?
I think we ought to mirror whatever their restrictions are.
Yeah, I actually have culinary. I don't have secondary out in my subdivision. My husband and I, we observe the watering times and not water during the day, but I know there's a lot in my area that actually water during the day, and I kind of cringe and go, oh. So I agree. I don't think there's any reason why it cannot be on the same policy and stuff that they have on secondary water. I mean, it's all water, conserving water and trying to do what's best for, our planet and for our areas, so.
Future.
Yeah.
No, I have a question for Andy. I had somebody ask me this. I didn't know the answer to it because they asked, well, what's the penalty? I didn't know if there was one on the books.
Oh.
If there isn't, it's just kind of a voluntary, hey, let's all do better.
Yeah, I think by our own ordinances, if we did have that ordinance in play, it could be a Class B misdemeanor unless we designate it as a Class C. But we don't, and this goes back a long time, but Dave, it seems like maybe 10 years ago or something, we were looking into it, and for some reason the council decided not to do that ordinance. Do you recall?
I think we had the conversation that comes down to, okay, there's no penalty to it, kind of why did we bother going and enforcing it at that time? There's nothing you can really do about it.
Yeah, because you could do a civil
Slap me on the
citation,
hand,
you
say,
could
"Do
set it
better."
up different
That's basically
ways.
what it was.
I mean, I think we have to look at, if we're gonna start doing that, I guess we go like pick our battles.
You know what?
And our code enforcement, do we want our code
I
enforcement
remember
out
now,
there doing?
one of the biggest issues is we are one of the highest violators of the issue.
Yeah, because
Water the lawns.
we have to do
We
it at
have
a
to
certain
water our
time,
own
and so we were
property
getting,
I
throughout the
remember.
day.
I remember
That's
that.
what it was.
that's what it was.
Yeah, so in
I
order
think
for
they're
that-
speaking about you, Travis.
No, and I'll tell you, I can't speak on it 10 years ago per se. I would tell you, we set our systems unless there's something special. We planting grass, we blade sod, to not water during that stretch. Now, twice a week we do sprinkler checks, where we have somebody with remote controls or a cell phone having somebody turn on stations so we can check heads. That can happen in the middle of the day. It does happen in the middle of the day. But as far as scheduled watering, for at least the 8-9 years I've had this job, we have not scheduled to have water on between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. unless there is special sod or seeding circumstances.
Were we getting any kind of flack about our checks? Was that what happened? I mean, this goes back a ways.
That's probably for my predecessor, but yeah, I'll get calls all the time about when we do sprinkler checks. And I try to address it by saying, we're gonna save more water if we stop this problem. You know, I mean, we're only gonna run each station for probably 2 minutes when the days we check them, flag any problems, fix it. And it's twice a week per park that we'll do these checks, but that saves us water opposed to if we have a broken head that's shooting up, 30 feet in the air when that water's at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Sure. Well, let me just give you a little history then. First thing is Secondary Water District is basically indicating that that failure to comply with the policy, their position would be as they'll simply turn their secondary waters off at that property. Now, that's their position on secondary water. It's a little more complicated to have that same restriction on culinary water because
That's a health issue.
it's a health issue. And
Hey,
it's
you're turning off my house water.
It's a life need.
So,
Yeah, I
but
won't have
so I think
anything.
it might be, if it's okay, council, we can approach Weber Basin. We'll ask them and see if there's some options available, because I think water conservation basically is incredibly important. And so I think we need to have at least see if there's some options available to us short of shutting water off to people's homes. I don't think the city should stretch that far. But by the same token, Secondary Water's position is that if in fact you do have new sod, new grass, a need, then you just simply have to notify them at that address that there's in fact a need to keep the water on different times other than that, particularly during that 10 to 6 period.
Right.
And them having that notification will allow their inspector to know that that's a house that's exempt from that ruling. And that seems to be a reasonable approach.
Yeah, also,
We'll go
Mayor-
ahead and approach and then bring some information back to the council, and then the council can then assess whether or not we want to really do anything or not with this issue.
Yeah, also, secondary water does have grids and maps. They know exactly who's on secondary water and who's not. So those people that say, well, how do they know if we have secondary water or culinary water? They do know. They have grids and maps that show what sections are culinary, what sections are secondary. But also note that those people that water with culinary water are going to be a little bit more mindful because it's expensive and they're going to use that.
Yeah.
The secondary is either free or it's a flat fee that you pay, so people are going to use secondary a lot more than they will culinary. So to me, I don't know that it's much of an issue. Secondary comes, they know who you are, and if you're violating it according to secondary's policy, they'll shut you off. If it's culinary, then you're paying for that water and how much you use anyway. So I don't know. I think it just stays and just leave it as the way it is.
It may very well be that's the case.
Yeah.
I just see personally from a perspective, we had a pretty poor winter by definition, and as a result, I think we could see some mandatory restrictions. There is a provision within the policy that basically says if we believe there is in fact a restriction necessary for the city, then the policy states the mayor has the authority to go ahead and levy a restriction on all consumers of water. I don't see the mayor doing that. I don't know if that's viable, but I think a conscious awareness to be conservative is not such a bad thing.
Yeah, Mayor, I think we actually did that, and I think it was Mayor Ritchie that put that in on one of the years, because it was the year that we were in a really bad drought, and that's when you can only water like twice a week.
Agreed.
And I'm pretty sure that Mayor Ritchie put that in there in that drought year. So I think
Yeah, the precedence has been set then.
Yeah.
Okay, good comment.
Travis, just for notification, at George Wallen Park, how are we going to water the seed? How many times a day, day and week?
It's going to have to probably be 3 to 4 times when we're first establishing the grass, once it takes root. At that point, we can start backing it off. We'll do our best to water for the most part during the nights, kind of let it dry, but anytime you're planting seed, you don't want it to get dry. That's the objective, is you don't want it to get dry. So there's no doubt we're going to be watering during 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I've met with secondary water this year, and we've had that conversation, and currently they said as long as we're not abusing it, we have their blessing with that.
Great, thank you.
And maybe with that, Trav, it's May, are we seeding, sodding soon? What's our
Yes,
plan with that?
Within the next 2 weeks, more than likely, all the seeding for the south part of the park will be done.
Okay, and sod, playground area?
Around that area, we're gonna wait to finish the splash pad and pavilion before we get those areas sodded, just because there's still construction zones.
Okay.
And then there's areas where we're gonna be putting in AstroTurf as well.
Okay, can you check with Taft
Yes.
on the
Yeah, we talked about that
splash
earlier.
pad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good conversation. Okay, let's go ahead. We need to roll into our RDA meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Now we have a motion to basically go into our Roy City Redevelopment Agency meeting. Do I have a motion to convene the Roy City Redevelopment Agency meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're now in our RDA meeting. Main item is the approval of the minutes, okay? So this is the approval of the RDA minutes for 3 April 2018. Do I have a motion to approve?
Mayor, I'd like to make that motion that we go ahead and we approve the minutes from April 3rd, 2018 RDA minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Travis, even though you've already given us an insight on the 2019 RDA budget, go ahead and...
Travis or Jason?
Excuse me. Thanks, Travis. I appreciate all the help there.
Travis.
Jason?
You better run while you got the chance.
Myself a no, so I wouldn't.
What did I call on Travis to give that
now? I'm
now?
not gonna, we're on a whole subject now.
Oh, that's bad. Go ahead, Jason, I'm sorry.
Okay, since it's just us, Matt, I'm gonna put Matt on the spot, tell Matt to go to the podium. And,
I think people really like the RDA.
yeah. So I'll just turn the time over to Matt, do
I
a
think
quick
Jason-
snapshot of the RDA and do your
Jason
thing.
kind of already did it. We basically, when it's all said and done, we have about $2.3 million to kind of play with. Next Tuesday, we want to get your guys' input on what we want to do with that. There's a lot of different things we can be doing, but I think we all need to be on the same page. And
Question. When
Sure.
we had Randy Sant came, he talked about possibly he was going to look into if we can use the RDA money outside of the area, be able to use it. Did we ever find out anything about that?
I believe you can, but I think the council or the commission has to go back and redeclare and make the RDA bigger in that area, if I
Okay.
remember right.
And then
Okay.
they have, I believe they have to get approval by the school board to do that as well.
You'd have to show that that new area is
Cascades.
blighted, but you can also spend outside of the area if you can show it's a benefit to the
area. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've asked Randy to be part of that conversation next Tuesday so that we can make sure we frame up in this budget. And also there should be an interlocal agreement that ties both the RDA board as well as the city council together. So I think you're going to see both documents to help us, or both discussions will take place to help us to fine tune this RDA budget.
I think we also need an interlocal agreement for our administrative services too, from the RDA.
And we're going to see a draft copy by tomorrow, I
Okay.
hope. Jason and you and I can sit down and we can kind of help frame that, make sure we got the right stuff in it, so we'll have a good conversation for you on Tuesday.
Sounds good.
And that's still part of the budget, is to transfer that over.
So do we have then some options or things like where, I mean, okay, we've got this money to spend, how are we coming up with how to do it? Are you presenting
That'll be
us
Tuesday.
with some stuff, or are we just hashing it out?
I think we're gonna hash it
Okay.
out Tuesday night.
Okay, that's fine.
Because there's multiple things we
That's
could
cool.
do.
Yep.
So Matt,
That's
just
fine.
real fast, propose, it says 2.3, but we're really gonna expend 300,000 of it on regular
Ongoing, yeah.
ongoing, so it's really about 2 million.
2 million, yeah.
Okay.
The 300,000 is money that we're getting in. And Randy said, he was saying that it's best to, if we do additional expenses, like,
Anything would come out of that.
yeah, to take it out of the ongoing revenues that we're getting and use that, the money in fund balance to do. the
Maybe
extra
like
stuff.
a economic developer
Correct.
director position.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay?
Now back to the
Anything else,
table.
Ben? Okay. Discussion, council? Any discussion on this? Hopefully, we'll be able to fill in some squares on Tuesday.
I'm hoping I will learn a lot more about it.
I already had my discussion for the night.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Matt. Great budget.
Take all that?
We off?
Yes.
No.